Bryanston, the leafy and lush residential suburb of Sandton. The rich history of this affluent area has attracted many families and young professionals to suit their lifestyle goals. Today we're exploring an elegant and stately Georgian-style home that is at ease with itself and makes you feel right at home.
In today's episode of Finest Homes, we take a look at a Georgian-style family home in the leafy suburb of Bryanston. We chat to the design team, Gareth and Kerry MacIntosh, as well as the homeowner, Julie Anne Hegarty, about what inspired this beautiful Georgian home and how they achieved this grandiose design.
Wow, Gareth, this home is seriously breathtaking. It must have been such a special project.
Yes, thank you, Tumelo. We were very lucky with this design in that we firstly had clients who were brave enough to push the boundaries all within the scope of Georgian design, and also there were clients that we had a lot of fun with along the way.
Yeah, and there's nothing that says welcome home like a grand entrance.
Yes, Tumelo, as you can see, the welcome of this home is one of the key features. We have paid special attention to detail on this grand portico with detailed lead pane glass and bespoke marble inlay on the floors. This is a welcoming entrance to the center of the home, the entertainment space, and a nice view all the way through to the secluded garden.
I love the sophisticated use of the marble and granite. It's a really nice alternative to our traditional welcome home mat that we're all used to.
Yes, please come through.
Thank you so much. Wow, look at this beautiful home. I know you're dying to tell me something about this place here.
Yes, we'll go through that a little bit later.
Okay, cool. Wow, I mean, Gareth, this is simply spectacular, isn't it? You've got a whole tennis court in the corner, you've got a swimming pool in the yard, but let's start with the building itself. This is Georgian style, right? What are the key kind of features of Georgian style in this home?
Yes, this is Georgian architecture, which is based on proportion and symmetry. We can see the symmetry with the way that the windows and doors are laid out, and we can also see the proportion with the pitch of the roof, the size and shape of the window, roof and door moldings, and the overall impression of the house.
And what are the key kind of exterior elements that contribute to the architecture overall?
I think obviously on this house there's the bold statements of the white walls and the black sash windows, the balconies and the doors, and also these central arches which create outdoor living for our South African climate, and also cool the house, the center of the home.
Yeah. Now, Gareth, the moment I stepped into this garden, I thought family bonding, outdoor fun, and a whole lot of fresh air. What was the brief from the family for their home?
So the original brief was a renovation, and what we found when we tried to open up the house and enjoy this back garden on the back here, we realized that a new build would be a far better option. With the new build, the brief was a traditional house, but with lots of light.
So I suppose that means that you had to flip things around a bit. Is that right?
Yes, so what we have is a south entry, northwest facing home. And what we've done on the Georgian house is we've pulled out the patio area with these arches central to the Georgian architecture. And that allows the family to enjoy this open living and enjoy this magnificent garden.
Gareth, there's an exceptional use of space around the garden. There's a herb garden, a swimming pool. Can you talk about the different elements that make this garden what it is?
Yes, so once the house is laid out, we are then able to look at the hard landscaping areas. Breakfast courtyards, braai areas. Also on this house we have enough space to be able to put a herb garden and a greenhouse and fish ponds, and what this creates is nice little sanctuary places for one to sit and enjoy the garden from many different aspects.
Yeah, they're very specific kind of selections of space to put different elements.
Yes, and also for different times of the days. We've got this beautiful oak tree here, which is a nice braai and area, and we have a nice outdoor dining space, which is again based on the Georgian principles, where we use symmetry, where the braai area is set in line with the house, and fish ponds and use of water and sound also help to create the space.
I love the fact that everything's very well considered. For example, you did chop and change the plans a little bit. As far as I know, I'm supposed to be in the middle of a tennis court.
Yes, at the start of this build, we were standing on a tennis court, and it was decided to move this tennis court, move boundary walls, and this was all a sort of last-minute decision, which put a little bit of pressure under us, but it was well worth it in the end. Why that's worked quite nicely is it's because it's allowed us to create the garden with interest. We have the pool on the front side of the garden, we have a secluded braai area, greenhouse, fish pond, and it's opened up this house all on the north side of the home.
It seems like there are certain elements that frame the garden entirely. Was that on purpose?
Yes, so what you actually want to try and do is create a border of trees to give you the sense that you're actually not in an enclosed area, and use of the sunlight and opening up the garden as much as possible. I'd really like to show you how we've taken the lines of symmetry of the house and extrapolated into the garden and hard landscaping.
Yeah.
As you can see over here, on access to the family room, which is opened up nicely onto the dining space and central to the braai area and pizza oven.
Yeah.
To break this space up, we've divisionalized it with this water feature, and perpendicular to this is another line of access which runs direct to the greenhouse.
Okay, so the geometry continues throughout.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, Gareth, I recognise that we're working with true Georgian style here, but is there a hint of local South Africa that I'm seeing?
Yes, we've been able to break the mold a little bit here because of our temperate South African climate. We've been able to open up the house and have great indoor-outdoor living, obviously guided by natural elements like this big, beautiful oak tree. And from there, we've still maintained the symmetry of the house into this outside dining space. On this side of the house, we have the outdoor space flowing into the family room, TV room, and dining room space.
But I'd love to talk about the interiors a bit, Gareth. Can we go inside?
Yes, let's go have a look.
Great.
Don't go away. After the break, we explore the interior of this lavish Georgian home. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we're exploring a Georgian-style family home in the leafy suburb of Bryanston. Before the break, we chatted to the developer, Gareth MacIntosh, who designed this beautiful home. And now, we get to explore the interior.
Now, Gareth, now that we're on the inside of the home, talk to me about the overall flow.
Yes, part of a traditional Georgian design is grand living spaces and big formal rooms. We've tried to deconstruct that by having open plan spaces with the family room, dining and kitchen, and flow into the family space, into the entertainment space, and then more private sanctuaries like the studies and library.
Now, as my eye reads the room and pans from the left to the right, I can't help but notice that magnificent wine cellar behind me. That must have been a key feature.
Yes, it's also important to create places of interest. In here we've got the wine cellar, which is a raw brickwork finish with unplastered. We've got the use of natural materials, wood and steel, and it's also backlit to create dramatic effect. Being an avid wine collector, this was an important feature for the clients.
And another really brilliant detail I've noticed is a double-sided fireplace.
Yes, again, because we have an open plan family living space, it was obvious to put a fireplace in here, which demarcates the dining room to the TV room, but it also allows an open plan feel. And also, because these fireplaces are really warm, it's really nice and snug in the winter. I want to take you back to the center of the home, where we have the central line of access through the house, and also the central passage, which shows us the light which comes into the house.
Lovely.
Let's go.
Your home is the launch pad for your life. It's where you set out from each day to head out into the world, and it's where you return to rest and restore. How your home is designed can radically impact how it feels and how you feel in it. So how do you design a family home that works? In order to create a home that works and feels great, design your home around how the sun moves across your site and home. It is the single biggest thing you can do to create a welcoming space that you will enjoy.
So here in the center of the house, you can see open doors through all access. We can see where the house evolves through the design. Whichever way we look, we've got a view to the outside, which not only allows light to come through, but also in the summer months allows a lot of wind and breeze through the house. I'd now like to introduce you to Kerry, who is involved with the interiors of this home.
Hi, Jamila.
Hello, Kerry.
I'm so excited to show you what I've done.
I'm going to leave you ladies to discuss the finer details.
Great, thanks Gareth. Kerry, this space is spectacular. It must have been the perfect canvas to work from.
It was an amazing brief, honestly. We had such an amazing rapport with the client, and today is really testimony to our lovely collaboration over that year.
Yeah, a real teamwork it sounds like. How involved were you in the building process?
I was involved from the get-go, discussing the layouts, which obviously also informs all the technical drawings for the kitchen, the bar, the bathrooms, and this then ultimately informs the material palette and the overarching aesthetic even at that stage.
So how would you describe this decor style?
Well, primarily it's a traditional home. It's rooted in a Georgian aesthetic, but in a contemporary setting that is accessible for a young family to enjoy. I designed the internal pieces with the Georgian principle in mind. Heavy pediments, pilasters, skirting details, as well as using traditional timbers like your walnut, which has got such a lovely rich hue and luxurious feel, polished marbles, in this case granite in the bar, oxidized brass, and such a lovely contrast to the more modern pieces in the space as well.
Now Kerry, I've noticed a few touches of green around the home. Talk to me about the importance of colour and texture.
Well, thankfully the client really embraced colour, which is a departure from a very soft Georgian palette. But in this space, we really embraced bold colour. We've got high gloss Duco armchairs, beautiful teal service in the dining room. We used a lovely cotton velvet, deep emerald sofa, ceramic tiles around the fireplace, and there was just really lush cut panel rugs underfoot.
Speaking about underfoot, I love the drama that the dark hardwood floor creates. Talk to me about the importance of the wall treatments and flooring.
Well, the floor for me just adds a really simple base tone to the house and just sets off a classic and timeless feel, and that's a lovely contrast then with the whitewashed walls. We also used wallpaper in the bathroom, which was just high drama, beautiful, rich, bold, floral, and then we did exposed brickwork in the wine cellar, just to add a little bit of authenticity.
Let's talk a little bit about the flow of the home and how you harmonise the different spaces.
So flow is really taking your core palette and just moving that interestingly through each space. So for me, green was such a lovely undertone in the whole house with the soft granite, the sage cushions, and you move that then through the upholstery or different other materials.
You were working with a relatively young family. How did you ensure that you incorporated the personality and essence of each family member?
So for me, it was about getting to know the family over that year and incorporating each of their personalities into their private spaces. I used a fantastic selection of fun fabrics, but that allowed them to grow into the space as well.
So really personalising it.
Absolutely.
Families grow and change too, and a home that is designed well can and will accommodate years of love and growth, whilst loving you right back. So, arrange the spaces in your home for orientation. Start with this framework and prioritize your living areas getting northern sun or southern sun if you're in the northern hemisphere. This home was actually built facing the other way round. The owners decided to flip the house over to maximize the use of the sun as well as the entertainment areas. It's all about flow.
Julie Anne, I love this home inside and out. It's truly beautiful and intensely spectacular. You must love living here.
No, well, of course. I mean, who wouldn't? It's a dream. It's my dream house. And we were very fortunate because we've had an opportunity to build our dream house from scratch. You know, because we lived here before on this plot in an old English country house that was also very beautiful and very gracious. But it was very old and it was kind of convoluted.
What exactly was your brief to the team?
So I'm from Northern Ireland, I'm British. My husband was born in Britain but was brought up most of his life in South Africa. My kids are South African. So for me, when we were conceptualizing what we wanted our house to be like, it was very important that it reflected who we are and what our cultures are, where we come from, and who we are as people, as personalities. So we came to the conclusion we wanted a traditional home with a contemporary feel and functionality. I, coming from Ireland, love Georgian architecture, absolutely love it. So we met Gareth, we felt very comfortable with Gareth. And he took the brief to create a home that represents the British kind of culture, but that works in a South African context.
Yes.
So we looked at where we wanted to position the house on the plot, because previously the house had been quite close to the wall here. There wasn't much of a back garden, and as I said, it opened out on all the entertainment rooms were south facing. So we decided to move the house more towards the gate and open up this space at the back of the house, and all of the entertainment rooms now are north facing, so it gets a lot of warmth, a lot of light. It means we can enjoy that from the beginning of the day until the end of the day. So that was very important, yeah.
What are some of the elements that you just couldn't go without?
Okay, so there were certain things that I wasn't prepared to compromise on. One was parquet flooring, because any Georgian house I've ever been in has had that deeply rich, dark brown parquet flooring. So that was a given. Sash windows, and we looked at various ways to do the sash windows and ended up with the traditional, the old school kind of sash windows. So they're wooden, they're your authentic sash window. And the cornicing, the skirting boards are all very much of a Georgian old school kind of vibe. And also in terms of decor, I was trying to bring in, because I'm not particularly a modern person, I love antiques, I love old art and crafts, and so I was trying to mix the furniture and the decor with contemporary furniture and then twisting it a little bit with some vintage pieces. So that was really just to create the authenticity, but obviously we're not living in the past, we're living now, so it needs to work in a contemporary kind of environment and the way that we live as a family. And we have 3 kids, 2 dogs, we need space, we entertain a lot, we have a lot of friends over and we have big parties. I'm Irish, I think it's in my DNA. So we needed a house to be able to accommodate that.
Now, I know this might be a little bit tricky for you, but can you tell me your favorite parts of your home?
That's not tricky. I have 2 favorite rooms in my house. One is the library, which was originally supposed to be my husband's man cave, and I sort of hijacked that a little bit because I read a lot and I've got a lot of books. And the other one I love is my bathroom. I love the basket weave tiling. It reminds me of a London townhouse. And the vintage bath and the feather mirrors, which we found in an antique shop. And so there's just so many quirky elements in the bathroom that every time I go in, it takes my breath away, still 2 years on. So.
Well, Julie Anne, if there ever was a perfect Georgian style example, this is it. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Shmela, would you like a gin and tonic?
Oh, you had me a gin and tonic.
Let's go to the bar.
Don't go away. After the break, we'll show you how you can achieve this look at home. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we're exploring a Georgian-style family home in the leafy suburb of Bryanston. Up next, we'll give you a few tips and tricks on how to get this look in your own home.
There's some interiors that just grip your imagination and whisk you to a completely different time and space. Now, this home was a perfect case in point. This Georgian-style home marries your Parisian flair with Victorian proportions, and it's right in the middle of Bryanston. And Tabby, I want to start with the proportions. As soon as you walk into that foyer, you're hit with the massive grand scale of the home.
And it lifts your spirit up.
It just grabs you entirely. Now, with such a massive scale and with so much space, where do you start in terms of size and scale with your furniture?
Well, you try to marry the interior. You try to have furniture pieces that'll lift the space up. And that's where you start. So that it's not too much of a disparity between scale and proportion and the space and the volume of the entrance.
So what are some of the examples that we saw upon entry that made that possible in that home?
Already the plants, because the plants just made the space feel more human. I love the way they were just flowing over and almost cascading out of their planters. That helped. The scale of the furniture, of consoles, of the big size sofas and chairs, it just made everything come down back to earth.
I think it was the perfect kind of co-partnership between the interior architect and the interior designer.
Yes.
In that, you know, we knew that it was a grand scale, but it was a perfect use of that vintage style and those proportions that kind of married it all together.
And the eclecticness of that, because Georgian is so formal, and you walk in and you're quite surprised to see this eclectic, vintage, Parisian feel coming into the interior.
Exactly.
That really helps to soften the expectations of what this formality outside was set as. So unexpected in a Georgian home.
Give us an example of how this works, say, in the sitting area, right?
Yes.
We had a bit of a lounge where it was very obviously retro.
Yes.
I mean, you've got your leather couches there, you've got your beautiful rugs. How did it all work together?
So I took their first lounge, which was more greyish toned, muted colour palette, and just a typical sofa. That makes it quite retro are the arms, the leg detail, and obviously the grey, because from retro you then pop your colours in that environment. And the greys could be anything, could be beautiful soft chenilles, and you can go different levels of grey, and you can even go a bluish grey. I also picked up on the elements of the wood legs. I just love that whole dated leg feel that you can bring through, mixing it with brass and marble, and of course this amazing rug, the pop-up rug, just adds that unknowingly let's party type of environment here. These vintage chairs, everything looks sourced. It looks like they took their time to find pieces. It's not just put together. And that just makes it so much more personal, that you know that there's a story behind every piece that they found here.
Now, I'm so glad you mentioned party, because this is by far one of the best entertainment spaces we've seen on the show. And there's nothing that represents that more than the bar that you see in that space already. It fits right in. I can almost imagine myself sipping some whiskey and smoking a cigar.
Right?
How did it all come together with those different materials?
So picking up from the vintage feel, I think the bar went quite Art Deco-ish with that grinded look on the bar counter. Is just so amazing. And obviously the type of chairs that they've used, the lighting and the quite dark wood bar counter is just exquisite. The red chairs are a beautiful surprise, and again looking very vintagey. And obviously red picking up in the carpets and in the chair fabric, it just makes it that more red wine.
I'm so glad you touched on the lighting, because it almost illuminates the room and doesn't make it feel so stuffy. When you have something that's retro and old school looking, you do want it to kind of brighten up and freshen up with some use
and also a bit of ambiance, you know, it just gets you in the mood. It makes you feel like you're in a real bar. And that's the feel that they've created so well there.
Now I'd like to hone in a little bit on the material that they used on the bar, but also to talk about its location and how it's been placed in the whole room. You'll notice it doesn't wrap around the entire bar section, but it kind of stands alone as its own identity and piece in the room.
Yes, which makes it quite sculptural and also feels like a furniture piece. So it's not differentiating between the bar and the lounge. It's all one area, but just the finishes to it then define its usage because of the brass, the antique brass fluting on the front is just exquisite.
Okay, and Tabby, let's talk about fabrics specifically.
Yes.
And how do they all work together, and let's talk about the textures that kind of complement each other.
First of all, the fabrics in this home are very livable. You can put your feet up, especially in a bar area or entertainment area. You don't want anything too sensitive to usage. So the greys work very well. They hide dirt, wear and tear, and they've brought in the element of black and white, a lot of wood, which is great for there. And even in these chairs, I'm suggesting that you could also still do leather on those, or keep it rough, raw, and durable again, and come through again with the rugs, pulling on those wine reds. And then when we move over to the bar, I mean, the killer element there is to get your sweet red.
And it seems like metallics play quite an important part in this aspect as well, just to kind of add a bit of a hint.
I love it, yes, because they bring in the brass details, and that's very gentlemanly, you know, cigar lounge type of feel, which captures the essence of that space very well, that you pull through on the legs of the bar, on the bar stool, or in the lighting as well. It's just a very nice, elegant way of making it style relevant.
I like the fact that it's a different use of kind of different elements. There isn't one streamline approach to it. What are the kind of key considerations to ensure that you reach a balance?
Obviously, the 4 elements of life, earth, wind, fire, water, are very well achieved in there, and it's still flowing through. So you must make sure that there's still wood, there's still brass, which is quite cold, and then you bring it home again with softer fabrics, rugs, and wood. Then your home is balanced.
This is a perfect family home with all the luxuries of a fine living lifestyle. And not to mention, the entertainment spaces are just a dream. This truly is a finest home.